think we are on air. Hello, thank you for joining us. This is kind of the post-interview wrap-up for Mental Illness Matters Radio. We just did an interview with Kate, and she's here now, and we're going to do kind of a video interview because that, to me, being able to see someone when they're telling their story seriously breaks down stigma. So, Kate, thank you for joining me.
No problem.
So I want to start off with saying, first of all, I'm so excited to know you and so excited that you're here in Colorado. And I just feel like, I don't know, I have this weird feeling that great things are going to happen as far as advocacy goes. And I want to kick off this Google chat with this question. And I was writing this down while we were talking in the interview, and I know that 30 minutes goes by so quick, and I thought I can't ever get to all the questions, but what will you say to people, or what would you say to people who look at having an eating disorder as trendy, or people who idolize people who have eating disorders? Because it happens and it disgusts me, but I want to know your perspective on it.
Well, I personally find it incredibly infuriating, but it's not something you want. It's miserable. I mean, your entire life, your entire bank account, your entire existence revolves around the eating disorder. Everything. You have no time for relationships. You have no time for school. You have no time for work. All you have time for is the eating disorder, and it absolutely consumes your entire life. And when you say, oh, I wish that I could do that. I wish I had the willpower. I wish I could make myself throw up. It's what you're wishing is that, honestly, what you're wishing is that you could lose weight, which you can. But an eating disorder is not the way to do it. It's miserable. It's all consuming, and it definitely. It makes people with eating disorders feel like their problems aren't huge, and they are, and they're so worthy of attention and treatment. And when you say, oh, I wish I had that, it makes it seem like no big deal. And that prevents people from getting the treatment that they need.
So I think eating disorders and OCD are a lot alike, and
yes.
You know both sides of that. And that means you're a very strong and resilient person. Where people think to themselves, oh, if only I had OCD, then my house would be cleaner, and things like that. And that's my biggest pet peeve, as most people know if they follow me. But here's the thing, what people ask most of the time about OCD, so I'm going to ask this about eating disorders as well, is when does it cross the line? When is it healthy? I'm watching what I eat and wanting to maintain weight and healthy exercise, because I know that can really play into an eating disorder. When does it cross that line?
I think when it gets to the point where you feel so compelled that you can't not do something. When you're dieting and you're trying to lose weight and eat healthily, go to the gym, and you say to yourself, well, this is what I want to do. Or you have other priorities and you say, well, I'm going to do this instead. You know, there's somebody is having a birthday and they have birthday cake, and you can say, well, I'll have a little piece of that today because it's their birthday and I want to participate. Or you can say, you know, I have a lot of homework and so I don't have time to go to the gym. But when it gets to the point where you feel you cannot not do your diet or the gym or whatever, then I feel like that's crossing a line.
Well, so a lot of times people will say, well, I think that so-and-so has OCD, or I think that someone may have an eating disorder. I think that somebody may having symptoms of this. And both you and I'm sure, are really sensitive about how people talk to us about our behaviors and our disorders. Give us some insight and advice on how to approach someone who may have an eating disorder, but you don't know. What can you say to? I'm horribly articulating this, but Um, what can you say to someone if you suspect that their behaviors are crossing that line, and you don't want, you want to say something, but you don't want to offend them or make them feel bad about it?
I think that expressing care it's not, personally, it's not offensive to me. Some people may be standoffish about someone saying, I'm concerned about such and such. But personally, I feel like coming at it in an accusatory manner, saying, well, I noticed that you're doing this and you're doing that and you're exercising this much and you're eating this much and you're not eating that much, then it makes me really defensive. And I don't want to talk about it because I feel like I'm either justifying my behavior or I'm apologizing for my behavior. And so just saying, I noticed this about you and it makes me kind of worried because I want you to be happy and healthy. And I noticed that you're not very happy lately. Is there something that I can do to help you? I think is a good way to approach it.
Yeah, I agree with that. Even in being in recovery as long as I have been, even though I still get triggered and I still feel the effects of OCD, it's still so annoying to me when people just assume that they know what things are. I don't know if you feel like this, but you know, I look at OCD as part of who I've become. I don't look at that as, you know, yay, I'm so glad I have OCD because now I am who I am. But if it wasn't for OCD, I wouldn't be doing all the things that I'm doing now and meeting all the cool people that I meet and getting to have such an impact on in the community with the job that I do. But it does upset me when people make assumptions about my disorder.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that happens a lot. And I bet that happens a lot with eating disorders because of, there is that physical component that's different with people who have pure O, where if you tell someone you have an eating disorder and you go out to eat with them, it's almost like you think, is the person just judging me about what I'm eating and what I'm ordering? Is that how it works?
That's a huge part of the disorder itself, is feeling shame about what you do and don't eat. And so, especially if you're going to bring it up with somebody, don't do it over a meal. Like, don't, because that's just the worst time to be like, well, I noticed, and just, that is not the time for it. Pick another time. So yeah, that's a huge part of the disorder itself, is feeling ashamed about what you're eating. And a lot of it is secretive. There's a lot of secrecy with eating disorders. And I mean, I've known people in treatment that would not eat in front of anybody else at all, period. So definitely there's a lot of shame and secrecy, and you want to protect your eating disorder. And so if you're approaching somebody about it and asking them, are you okay? There's going to be that natural defense system that says, oh, you got to keep it a secret. You got to make everything seem okay. So yeah, don't do it over a meal.
Talk about the secrecy a little bit. And I think that this is probably something that people with outward compulsions have when it comes to OCD, and probably a lot of people who have addiction deal with the secrecy aspect of it. So talk a little bit about that. What does that look like? What are some behaviors that may happen if someone is dealing with that shame and stigma and needing to feel like they need to have secrecy?
Well, I mean, with bulimia, because especially in our society, overeating is associated with weakness, and saying things like saying, oh, well, I can't resist, or the urge is too strong, or I'm being so bad when you eat a piece of pie. And so there's all of this social stuff associated with it anyway. And so when you're struggling with binging, you don't want anybody to know, because it's, even outside of the context of a disorder, it's overeating is laziness and badness and all this stuff. So it's things like, you know, hiding how much you're eating and hiding food wrappers in places where people won't find them, and being really secretive about your trash. And then with the purging as well, there's a lot of hiding the evidence of, you know, that was something that I put, when I was in treatment, we did this collage of what an eating disorder really looks like. And we went through magazines and picked out things. And a huge section of my collage was bathroom cleaning products and aerosol, air spray, because that's a lot of it is covering up the purging. Because you got to clean everything, you got to make it not smell like vomit and all this stuff. So there's just a huge element of secrecy to it because A, there's the social implications of overeating, and B, there's the shame of doing something fairly gross in response.
Well, I don't know if you know this about me, but my biggest OCD fear is emetophobia.
Mm-hmm.
So the fear of throwing up.
Yeah. Find that interesting. We're talking about this.
I know. I had to prepare a little bit beforehand. So I've never been in danger of having bulimia.
Yes.
The thought of it scared the shit out of me.
That's another stigma. People are like, oh, I could never be bulimic because I hate throwing up. I'm like, you think we like it? That we think it's a good time?
Exactly.
It's not fun.
The problem is that I feel like life is going to end if I even think about barfing.
Yes.
It's the OCD. I was telling someone I got really triggered yesterday, actually, with the emetophobia, and he was asking me, well, what can we do, and how can you get through this, and how can you overcome it? What's going to happen if you do get sick, which is like my nightmare. So him just even saying that caused anxiety. And I was like, well, I'd probably go to the emergency room immediately. And I thought, well, compulsion anytime, because who goes to the ER if they think they're going to barf?
Yeah.
I love Purell.
Our brains.
I have to have you on sometime again to talk about Purell, because there's not a lot of people that'll talk about it.
Yeah.
So, so a couple more questions. One, tell me what you think about how the media drives and perpetuates eating disorders, and how that affects stigma, and how that affects people even wanting to get treatment.
Well, there's a couple of different aspects to that. So one is when TV shows and movies actually do approach the eating disorder topic. A lot of times they portray it as something that A, is driven by a desire to be thin, which again may start out that way, but by the end it's not about that at all. And B, it's something that is easy to get over, that it's something that you can just be like, oh, I'm not going to do that anymore, and then you're fine. I see that a lot of times on TV shows and in movies, and that's not, it's not something that we just have a choice to just decide to stop doing.
Right.
And I think that perpetuates the idea that it's vanity as well, that it's something that we're choosing to do because we're vain, and that we can stop doing any time if we decide to get over ourselves and stop being vain. But it's not like that at all. And then I think the media also tends to portray, it's a weird balance, because on one hand we do talk about eating disorders, but on the other hand we promote them. And we promote these insane 800 calorie HCG diets, and we put incredibly thin people on the runways as a model of beauty, and we talk about it. There's the tongue patch thing that was all over the media for a while, which it's like this weight loss method where they sew a little patch onto your tongue so it hurts to eat. And like that's incredibly disordered to me. And so it's like on one hand we have this eating disorders or this vanity thing, but on the other hand we promote them. So it's really difficult to live with, because it seems like you're getting two very different messages. On one hand it's a good thing, but on one thing it's a bad thing that you should just get over. So
okay, so with that said, and kind of as a wrap up, where do we go from here? How do we, okay, I'm going to say wrap up, and then I'm going to have like 8,000 questions. How do we stop this? How do we address this in a thoughtful way that's going to help people see that this is detrimental? And when you were describing the symptoms and the things that it can do to your body, and that's when it really hit home for me of, this is not that I didn't know that it wasn't something to idolize, but this really is, I want everyone to know that this is not to look at and just say, oh, look, I wish I was that, because that's when it really drove it home for me. So what can we do, Kate? What can all of us do to stop this negative thought without, seeming aggro? Because I sometimes come across as really aggro about OCD, but how can we start to create change surrounding this, with this push-pull of, is it okay to be? Is it not okay to be? What do we do? How can we start?
I think that teaching intuitive, healthy, body-responsive eating is something that we need to instill in young people, because we have two extremes. We have the advertising incredibly high-fat, sugar-laden foods to children, and then on the other hand, we're teaching them 1,200 calorie dieting. And it's like teaching young people how to listen to their bodies and recognize when they're hungry and when they're full, and acknowledge that it's okay to have a little bit of everything, and it's fine to eat some pie. You're not bad for eating some pie. I think that could go a long way, especially in eating disorders in young people. And then I think there needs to be more promotion of the acceptance of various body types. There's a lot of different ways a body looks when it's healthy. Some people are healthy when they're quite slim. Some people are healthy when they have a little bit more. Some people are healthy when they're really muscular, and some people, so there's a lot of different ways a healthy body looks, and promoting this singular stereotype of A, an incredibly thin woman, or B, an incredibly lean, muscular man, promotes these extreme behaviors to achieve those body types, when in reality there's a lot in between.
Sounds like just overall acceptance.
Mm-hmm.
There's
listening,
no right or wrong.
Mm-hmm. And listening to people when they say, this is what I'm struggling with, and this is why, and these are the feelings that I have associated with it, will definitely help.
Well, you're on that path, and now that we know each other, and we're going to combine forces, big changes are going to happen here in Denver. So get ready, because Colorado needs it. That's what I know. I just want to thank you for everything that you do, Kate. I'm so glad that we're connected now, but thank you for sharing your story, and to be able to step out and be someone to idolize, and in a healthy way, but be someone that people can say, she has been through all this, and now look at how healthy she is, and you're giving back and helping people not feel so alone. So I just want to thank you, and I'm glad that we know each other now.
Yes, me too.
Yeah. So for everyone who's joining us, if you want to check out our interview and you haven't heard it, please go over to Blog Talk Radio and search Mental Illness Matters Radio, and you'll be able to click on the link, and you'll be able to hear a little bit more of in depth about Kate's story, and about what we can do to eliminate stigma and just the realities of eating disorders in general. So thank you for tuning in, and thank you for supporting Eliminating Stigma, because that's what we're doing here on the Google Hangouts, and that's what we're doing with the radio podcast. So I hope that you enjoy your week, and Happy New Year. And we will see you next week with another Google Hangout with someone who is dedicating their life to ending stigma. Thank you, Kate.
Bye.